Hey, what is up you guys? King Lagerfeld here, back with another video reaction. And today we're going to be doing a video by the Film Theorist. This is The Tragic World of Arthur Exposed. Now, I love Arthur. Arthur is like my childhood, so I don't know what possibly could be so tragic about it, but the Film Theorist, he always comes up with some plausible explanation. He's really smart. So we'll go ahead and see what he exposes in this video. Let's get into it.
You know, looking back, Arthur might not be the wholesome PBS Kids cartoon that we all thought it was.
But it's so
wholesome. He
wholesome.
had an episode where everyone in school struggled with addiction to strange ingredients in the candy bars that they were eating. That's certainly concerning. And the whole world seems to operate under unspoken societal prejudices and hierarchies. I mean, did your 6-year-old self ever notice the fact that reptile characters are only ever shown to be doing jobs with heavy manual labor? It's true. It's almost enough to make you ball up your fist in anger. But there's one other dark truth about this show that you might have missed back in preschool. Heck, that the adults watching this with their kids have still missed to this day. A dark truth that'll make your brain melt. And that, my friends, is what we're covering today.
I wonder what it is, because he has the buck teeth.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory, the show that has an original point of view, just like everyone that you meet when you're walking down the street. Here's a question for you. What's the longest-running American cartoon? If you said The Simpsons, well, you probably also watched our King of the Hill episode, and you're right. Congratulations. But you know what the second longest-running cartoon in America is? It's our buddy, Arthur the Aardvark, who's been growing up while learning
he has been on
lessons
since
on our
the
TV screen
90s.
since 1996.
Wow.
This would be the part where I say only 90s
24
kids will
years.
remember, but after 22 seasons, Arthur is still on the air. It's wild that my son can grow up watching the same shows that were on TV when I was a kid. And I'm glad that Arthur never left, because every kid ought to grow up in a world where we can learn to work and play and get along with each other. Arthur's also one of those shows that's great to go back to as an adult, because a lot of the jokes were totally put in there for the parents who had to watch whatever their kids were watching. And if you were a kid, well, you probably missed a lot of those references the first time around.
Sorry, Sue Ellen. It's a brother and sister race. Maybe there's a contest for lonely children after this. It's only children, DW. A lonely child is what you're gonna be when I sell you.
What?
Jeez, Arthur. When
did he say
your
that?
Sister?
What am I gonna do? Run away. Literally. Join the circus.
Arthur was a savage. Oh my god.
But there's another thing that you might have missed when watching Arthur as a kid. Something that's not so bright and cheery. It may be a wonderful kind of day, but we wouldn't be Film Theory if we weren't willing to ruin those wholesome childhood memories by exposing the dark and tragic truths behind them. Now, if you're somehow one of the people who didn't grow up watching this PBS classic as a kid, Arthur is a show about an aardvark named Arthur and his sister DW as they go to school with their friends, including a rabbit named Buster, a monkey named Francine, a bulldog named Binky, a bear.
Binky was a bulldog?
Everyone in the world is an animal, in case you missed the
I guess
pattern.
I didn't know that.
It's pretty much what you need to know. In typical kids show fashion, they learn life lessons, they shade each other.
You know how Polylocket works? That's where you keep your most special, important thing. I figured you'd want to put this in there.
No, thanks. I'm gonna put in a picture of my cat.
And they burn the spelling of aardvark into your brain so completely that literal decades after you watch that one episode, you still hear it in your mind.
A-A-R-D-V-A-R-K.
A-A-R-D-V-A-R-K.
A-R-D-V-A-R-K. A-A-R-D-V-A-R-K.
I remember how to spell that word. Even as I'm typing this up, that song is playing constantly in the back of my brain. And that's what you get if you're the target demographic. But if you've ever stumbled across an episode of this show as someone a bit older after learning about the birds and the bees, you might be wondering how, in a society of animals, interspecies romance works. But joke's on you. The show is already one step ahead of you. Despite Arthur living in a society with many different types of animals, most families seem to be single species. Arthur and his sister DW are both aardvarks, and both of their parents are also aardvarks. Buster Baxter is a rabbit with two rabbit parents.
Yeah.
Francine is a monkey with 2 monkey parents, and so on and so forth. Now, we do know that interspecies romance isn't exactly taboo. For instance, back in 2019, Mr. Ratburn, who you might have already guessed is a rat, married an aardvark. And while that episode was apparently controversial enough to get it banned from television in Alabama,
That was ridiculous.
I'm gonna wager that the outrage was more about the fact that Mr. Ratburn concern was a man marrying another man, and not so much the fact that it was a rat marrying an aardvark. In this world, there's apparently nothing saying that an aardvark can't date or marry a rat, but when it comes to biology and reproduction, the Arthur universe seems to follow rules pretty similar to our own. If you're an aardvark looking to make some aardvark babies, you're gonna have to find yourself another aardvark. Or at least, that's the way it seems at first until you start digging deeper, and you notice a strange trend. For instance, Molly and James McDonald. They're both rabbits, and while their father is a rabbit, their mom is a dog. Emily here is also a rabbit with a rabbit mother and a monkey father. And Carl is a rabbit who has an aardvark mother and no other parents that we can see. At first, these three examples might
somebody
seem to
got some
disprove the
explaining
idea
to do.
that interspecies romance
Some
in the
DNA
Arthur universe
test,
can't result in
something.
reproduction, but there's another thing that they all have in common. Molly, James, Emily, and Carl, the four characters who all have at least one parent that doesn't match their own species, are all rabbits. That doesn't seem like it can be a coincidence. In a world full of aardvarks, monkeys, bulldogs, and all other kinds of animal species, it just so happens that the kids who have parents of different species all are predominantly rabbits? When you see a pattern like that, it's the kind of thing that raises questions and demands answers. The first question I had is whether there might be some particular quirk of rabbit biology that might allow them to breed across species. It's not unheard of for there to be genetic hybrids, after all. For instance, you may have heard of mules. Well, they're the offspring of a horse and a donkey. There's also many varieties of zebroids, which result in crossbreeding zebras with other species. You know what you get when you cross a zebra and a horse? A zorse. What do you get when you cross a zebra and a donkey?
Zonkey?
A zonkey. And those aren't jokes. Those are actual real animals that can be created.
I've never seen a
We
zorse.
assumed that Molly, James, Emily, and Carl were all rabbits based
That's
on their
new to me.
distinctive rabbit-like features, but could it be that they're the result of some kind of crossbreeding? Well, the science doesn't seem to support it. Rabbits aren't genetically similar enough to dogs, monkeys, or aardvarks to crossbreed with them. You could argue that the Arthur universe has different
doesn't
rules
seem
here.
logical.
After all the animals are genetically similar enough to walk upright on 2 feet and speak to each other in English, but even if that were the case, it still doesn't explain why it's only rabbits that we see as the children in these interspecies relationships. However, there may indeed be a biological explanation for why it's always rabbits who seem to be raised by non-rabbit parents, and it gets into some territory that has some pretty troubling implications for the wider Arthur universe. One thing that we've been doing this whole time is operating under the assumption that all of these rabbit kids are the biological children of the parents that they live with. But as we all
we're getting
know, the real
scientific.
world is full of plenty of examples where parents and children aren't related by blood. Obviously, adoption
Right,
exists,
adoption
and there are plenty of kids
could be
with
an
divorced
option.
parents living with their step-parents. In short, the way I see it, there are two key possibilities potentially causing this trend. One, divorce is more common in rabbit couples, or two, rabbit children are getting put up for adoption more frequently. So let's start with possibility one, divorce being common in rabbit couples. You see, this theory already seems plausible considering that divorce exists in Arthur's world. Buster Baxter has parents who are separated, also a rabbit couple. And there's a real-world explanation for this. You see, real-world rabbits don't tend to mate with only one partner for their entire lifetime. They're not monogamous. You could say that they are hopping from partner to partner, which, could produce some strain on a relationship.
That's
when
so
Bitsy
funny.
Baxter over there is finding her husband Bo in the burrow with another woman. Except there's
Not
a problem with
Lola.
all this. Rabbits aren't alone in this category. Very, very few animal species are actually monogamous. It's mostly because it doesn't make sense from a genetic standpoint. Reproduction is all about ensuring the survival of your genes into the next generation. So you want as many chances at that as possible with a relatively wide array of mates. Monogamy is costly because it requires an individual to place their entire reproductive investment on the fitness
Into
of their
one
one
person.
mate. It's putting all their eggs in one basket, literally. And in Arthur, we see all different animal types from aardvarks to bulldogs, goats, monkeys, moose, pigs, sheep. In all, I counted about 20 different
I'm still
species
shocked
of
that
animals
Buster is
shown
a
to be
bulldog.
functioning
I never
members
knew
of this
that.
society. And the fact is, most of these types of animals would be dealing with the same marital issues if monogamy was really a concern in this universe. So it doesn't seem like divorce here is causing the issue, which means it has to roll up to option 2, adoption. But why would so many bunny babies be put up for adoption in this universe? Well, I think it's actually the result of 2 contributing factors. You see, it's no secret that rabbits are notorious for their mating abilities. The phrase breeding like rabbits is a thing that exists for a good reason. Rabbits are able to become pregnant early in life, with some species able to get the ball rolling, so to speak, as early as 4 months of age. Add to that the fact that the female is able to get pregnant for all but 3 days per month, and you've got yourself a wide open window for babies. babies. Now, that alone would be pretty unique in the animal kingdom, but there's another few factors
At
that make
4
rabbits
months? They don't waste no
breeders.
time.
You see, a
Oh
mother
my
rabbit
God.
usually gives birth within 32 days of getting pregnant and is ready to get pregnant again almost immediately
Oh
after
my
giving
God,
birth.
what?
So if they wanted, a mother rabbit could have a litter of babies almost every month. Nearly 12 in a year, which is incredible. Compare that to humans.
Now
where the
that's
gestational period is
overpopulation.
266 days. But what makes rabbit breeding truly insane is that each of those litters can have anywhere between 1 and 14 babies, with the average being 6. Compare that to other animals that
Every
we see in
month?
the Arthur universe. Aardvarks, 1 baby every 7 months. Monkeys, 1 baby every 2 years or so. Dogs, cats, foxes, bears, you name it, all of them have longer pregnancies and smaller litters.
No
which
wonder
means
there's
that
so much
gonna be
adoption
a lot
of-
more rabbits in this world than there are any other type of animal. And this is something that's actually confirmed by the show's character list. Looking through lists of all characters to have ever appeared in Arthur, you quickly see that there are nearly 220 unique rabbit characters that are shown up on the screen. The second most animal species is, as you'd expect,
Aardvark.
aardvarks, which clock in at around 170 unique characters. But that number is also inflated since our main character is himself an aardvark, so the show is going to revolve around him and his animal type. No other animal even comes close to touching the number of rabbit characters in this show. Now, it'd be tempting to say that all these newborn bunnies are resulting in the parents abandoning some of their kids, which is terrible and awful, and quite honestly would make a pretty darn good dark twist for this episode on a show made for elementary school kids, but I don't think that's the case here. There isn't any scientific evidence suggesting that rabbit parents are any more negligent than parents of other species, and it also wouldn't explain why there are so many one-rabbit households. Now, I think that there's something else at play here. You see, there is one basic bit of biology that separates rabbits from pretty much every other species that we see on the show: lifespan. Let's go back to that character frequency chart, shall we, and compare the lifespans of the most common species that we see in the Arthur universe. Aardvarks, 18 years in the wild, 23 in captivity. Brown bear, 20 to 25 years in the wild.
I would have thought
Dogs,
rabbits
10 to
die
15
pretty
years,
young.
depending on the breed. Indoor cats,
They
13
seem like-
to 17 years. Brown spider monkeys, 27 years in the wild, 33 in captivity. Rabbit, 1 to 2 years in the wild,
Okay.
5 to 7 in captivity.
Okay, yeah.
To borrow from another kid's program,
Because people actually eat rabbits, so
in the world
sure
of
they don't
Arthur,
last
animal
long.
lifespans are probably going to be closer to what they would be in captivity, since Arthur and his classmates probably don't have to worry about things like natural predators. Plus, of course, I missed that episode where the brain has to learn to suppress his bear-like instincts to avoid devouring his
Okay, how is he a
classmates.
bear?
But even when raised in
He's not-
captivity, rabbits have a much shorter lifespan than aardvarks, monkeys, dogs, and pretty much every other species that we see appear in Arthur, with the only big exception being rats. But then again, this is a 3rd grade rat in Arthur. Dude already looks like he's ready to put a mortgage on a house, so I'd say he's aging pretty darn fast. Now, obviously, everything that we see in the Arthur universe isn't going to be one-to-one with real life. These animals can stand upright on 2 legs, to walk down the street, and can learn to work and play and get along with each other. These animals seem to age at a rate similar to humans. While real-life rabbits are capable of breeding at ages as young as 4 to 6 months, Buster
That is
is 8 years
crazy.
old and doesn't seem to have hit puberty yet. So if we adjust animal lifespans to human lifespans, like we see on the show, it would look a little something like this. Aardvarks, 97 years. Brown bear, 95 years. Dogs, 42 to 63 years, depending on the breed. Cats, 63 years. Monkeys, 139 years. Rabbits, 24 to 42. And this, my friends, explains the thing
That's
that sent us
still
down
young.
this rabbit hole in the first place, which is why there are so many rabbits who seem to have guardians of other species or just live in single rabbit families. The simple fact is that even if rabbits are starting families at ages as young as 18, a significant portion of them won't live long enough to see their kids finish school. With rabbit
That's
lifespans
sad.
so short, it's no wonder that so many rabbit kids are being raised by non-rabbits. The surviving rabbit parent probably remarries out of desire to have a partner to raise kids with them. If this is common in the Arthur universe, it wouldn't be all that weird for this sort of thing to happen, which would explain why it's never commented on by characters in the show. Arthur has been on the air since 1996, and he's just one of those cartoon characters that doesn't age. He's been an 8-year-old 3rd grader for over 23 years, which I gotta say is probably a good thing. If the series actually
Stewie
followed
on
the
Family Guy
characters
has been
23
one for,
years, they might have
what,
already
21
gotten to the
years?
point where Buster's classmates have to hold his funeral while everyone else is in the prime of their lives. That, of course, would be after the episode where Buster goes through his midlife crisis somewhere in the middle of high school. Looking at all the life expectancies for the animals in the Arthur universe, Arthur the aardvark actually has a pretty decent shot of outliving most of his other classmates. Maybe he really should marry Francine the monkey if he's looking for someone to spend his golden years with.
I mean,
oh wait, he actually does. because this is something that is confirmed in the show. They do wind up together. And strangely,
I never
have
knew
a
that.
conversation about Buster.
There's Buster Baxter. Whatever happened to him?
Huh, whatever happened to Buster? Strange how those best friends don't wind up together in the end. And notice how Arthur just doesn't respond in this moment. He just stares sadly off into the distance. It's almost like he had a dear old friend who died a bit too early.
Flashbacks.
And that, my friends, is my feel-good episode on the world of Arthur. Happy childhoods. And remember, it's all just a theory. A film theory. And this episode...
The arcade. That was really good, you guys. That is a kind of tragic turn on Arthur. You know, the rabbits not living that long and then a lot of them being up for adoption. If this was real life, Buster would be out of here, but good thing this is just a cartoon and fictional, and we can enjoy these characters as long as they keep drawing them. Anyway, you guys, another great film theory video. Let me know what you guys thought about this video down in the comments below. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, be blessed, be your best, and keep down the stress. Bye, guys.